I'm calling Mark Robinson, the Republican candidate for governor in North Carolina, the notorious GOP. And yeah, the left, Rachel Maddow in the game. They put a hit out on Big Mark Robinson. I'll explain. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you for joining me. Happy Thursday. We're almost to the weekend. Hope you're enjoying the ride. We have a fantastic show for you today. And this episode is brought to you by our good friends at Good Ranchers. Fall in love with beef, chicken, and seafood all over again by subscribing to GoodRanchers.com. Use my promo code FEARLESS to get a free $119 Heritage ham plus $25 off any box with your subscription. All right, before I get to Mark Robinson and our conversation today, and stay tuned, I got an awesome daily dose of Stephen A. Smith that I'm going to deliver. Guys, I told you that the guys at T.Rex Arms hooked me up, got my guns, and I went out shooting, and we're going to release that video. Me spending the day with Lucas Botkins and the people at T.Rex Arms. We're going to release that video at the end of today's show. So a lot of good stuff to talk about. I want to tell you, though, hit the subscribes, hit the likes. If you're watching over Apple, make sure you hit that 5-star rating. But I want to reiterate to you guys again, if you really love this show and you really want to support this show, the number one thing you can do, above all else, blazetv.com/fearless. blazetv.com/fearless. Use my promo code and you'll save, Fearless is my promo code, and you'll save $30 on your yearly subscription. This is vital. I was talking to guys that pray with me every Wednesday, you know, special members of the Fearless Army that gather with me every Wednesday, and you guys are welcome to join. But I was talking to them yesterday, and one of the guys was watching the show on Rumble, and, you know, because he doesn't want to support YouTube, and I get it. I was like, hey, bro, if you really want to support this show, you got to watch me on Blaze TV. You got to get a subscription to Blaze TV. That's how you really support the show. So I encourage all of you all to do that. But let's get into our conversation for today, because Shemeka's waiting in the wings. T.J. Moe's here with me in studio. I want to talk about what Mark Robinson, who I'm calling the notorious GOP, he's the next big thing, I think, in politics. I think that he's somewhat Black Donald Trump. He's somewhat Clarence Thomas. He's somewhat Rush Limbaugh. He's an enormous combination of things that trigger the left. And he's got the added element. You got he's part Donald Trump. He's part Clarence Thomas. He's part Rush Limbaugh. The added part is he's part preacher as well. And he's got the spiritual element. And he's so big and so bold and so masculine that he is really, really triggering the left. And he so undermines their narrative of, oh my God, the GOP, conservative people, they hate black people. They hate black men. They're racist. Mark Robinson, he and his black wife, he and the black church he attends, it's going to be real hard, I think, to convince people that Mark Robinson isn't black. And it's going to be real hard to convince people, as I said yesterday, that the people supporting Mark Robinson are all just racist white people, and he just says what white people want to hear. No, people are supporting Mark Robinson because they share they share values with him. And he speaks and stands on those values very, very boldly. And I want to play a couple of clips here just to give you a taste. I'm sure some of you have heard these before, but I just want to play a couple of sound bites so you know who I'm talking about and you know the kind of things he's saying that is triggering the left. And it's in this big, black, bold package, and it's really triggering the left. Let's play SOT number 1, where Mark Robinson, ain't but two genders.
Here's something else I'm not supposed to say. Ain't but two genders. Two genders. Ain't nothing but men and women. And I can already see WRL out there. They got they licking their pencils right now, trying to write fierce as they can. Get every word of this here. Get every word of this. You can go to the doctor and get cut up. You can go down to the dress shop and get made up. You can go down there and get drugged up. But at the end of the day, you were just a drugged up, dressed up, made up, cut up, man or woman. You ain't changed what God put in you, that DNA. You can't transcend God's creation. I don't care how hard you try. The transgender movement in this country, if there's a movement in this country that is demonic and that is full of the spirit of Antichrist, it is the transgender movement. It's time for grown-ups and time for Christians to start standing up and being unafraid to tell the truth. Come after me if you want to. I don't care. You want my head? Here it is right here. Come on, come get it. I don't care because it's time for us to stand up. Now, I'm not afraid to stand up and tell the truth about that issue. They're dragging our kids down into the pit of hell, trying to teach them that mess in our schools. Tell you like this, that ain't got no place at no school. 2 + 2 don't equal transgender. It equals 4. We need to get back to teaching them how to read instead of teaching them how to go to hell. Yeah, I said it and I mean it.
That's a tsunami. That is, and I want to be, I feel like I'm the only person in position to say this. And because I can say it with empathy and I can say it with sincerity, and no one can say I'm trying to be politically incorrect or impolite. If Mark Robinson, just like Jason Whitlock, if he addresses his weight problem, we both have a weight problem, but if that man addresses his weight problem, he'll be the president of the United States in 2028. Big Papa, the Notorious GOP, if he gets that weight off, he'll be the president of the United States in 2028. And he will, we talked yesterday about what MAGA and Trump have done. They've toppled the Republican Party. Mark Robinson can topple this racial narrative that has been used. Mark Robinson could be Harriet Tubman. He could be Nat Turner. He could be the one that frees the slaves from the Democrat Plantation. Because you're not going to be able to convince black people that that man ain't black or that that man's ashamed of being black. It's just an impossibility. The Notorious GOP is a real problem, and they know it. I want to give you one other soundbite from Mark Robinson here, and then I'm going to show you how he's triggering the left. Let's play SOT number 2.
Yeah.
This narrative about Republicans being racist and cannot stand Mexican people and black people and women is ridiculous. This idiotic guy was on stage with Candace Owens a few days ago and asked her, what America are we going back to make America great again? The one where women couldn't vote or black people were swinging from trees? I would say to him if I was standing in front of him, I absolutely want to go back to the America where women couldn't vote. Do you know why? Because in those days we had people who fought for real social change and they were called Republicans. And they are the reason why women can vote today. Those days that he talked about when black folks were swinging from trees. Guess who it was out there fighting to bring that to an end, to bring Jim Crow to an end? It was Republicans. So that's the America we want to bring back. We want to bring back the America where Republicans and principles and true ideas of freedom rule. That's the America we want to bring back. That's why I'm a Republican. I'm a Republican because of the 13th, 14th, the 15th Amendment to the Constitution and the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. I'm a Republican because whenever you look at true, honest to God, social change for the better, at the top, leading the charge, is a Republican.
That's a problem. He is a problem, and he has the left triggered. I want to play Rachel Maddow, one of the top assassins for the left and for that secular elite crowd, that globalist crowd. She's one of their top assassins. And so they've set her and Joy Reid and all the rest of these clowns are going to be coming for the Notorious GOP. She's already started early this week. I think she started the day before Super Tuesday with this attack.
Here is the serving Republican Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina on that movie, on Black Panther. He says it is, quote, created by an agnostic Jew and put to film by a satanic Marxist. He calls it, quote, this trash that was only created to pull the shekels out of your Schwarze pockets. Ladies and gentlemen, the Republican Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina. Tomorrow on Super Tuesday, he's actually going to be running in the North Carolina primary to try to become his party's nominee for governor of the great state of North Carolina. Here he is calling survivors of school gun massacres, quote, media prostitutes, as in prostitutes, but prostitutes. He calls them spoiled little bastards who need to shut up. Again, this is for kids who lived through a school shooting that killed 17 of their classmates. They need to shut up. He calls public school teachers, quote, wicked people. And not for nothing, he says this about the Holocaust. He says, quote, Hitler disarming millions of Jews and then marching them off to concentration camps is a bunch of hogwash. He is the Republican Party's leading candidate to be their party's nominee for governor of the state of North Carolina. He will be on the ballot tomorrow in that state. He's already lieutenant governor in North Carolina.
They know. That is Rachel Maddow saying, this big black dude is a problem we don't have an answer for. So let's assassinate his character. Let's distort and take out of context everything the man has ever said. Let's smear him. We don't want to deal with the ideas. We don't want to wrestle with the truths he's unleashing. Let's smear and kill this man. They're going to come for this guy the same way they came after Trump, the same way they came after Clarence Thomas, the same way they came after Brett Kavanaugh. I apologize for saying this because I don't want to distract, but it just came to my head. And I apologize for saying because it will distract. Same way they came after Bill Cosby. Any black man that stands on principles, and I know Bill Cosby has his issues, but I've already done told you how I feel about that. Quaaludes at the Playboy Mansion with a bunch of 304s, so commonplace, cut it out. And don't put someone in jail over something that happened 30 years ago that you really couldn't even prove and you really didn't even prove. Bill Cosby's character was assassinated because of what he stood for. And I'm not saying he was perfect. He's a clown and should have done better. But what he stood for and calling for some responsibility and accountability from black people and for them to live up to the values they espouse in the church, they can't, Rachel Maddow, the left, they can't stand black men that stand on righteousness. They want us all to be sexually perverted, sexually fluid, debaucherous, radical materialists, drugged up, drunk, tatted up, pants hanging off our rear ends. That's who they're comfortable with. They see a black man in a suit at a church talking about biblical values. That's the worst human being on the planet. must be destroyed. So Shemeka, I want to bring Shemeka into this conversation because Shemeka lives in North Carolina. She knows Mark Robinson a little bit. Before I do that, I do want to just briefly take care of one of our great sponsors, why we're able to have these type conversations, Patriot Mobile. For 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And when I say only, trust me, they're the only one. Founder Glenn Story and his team have been great supporters of this show, which is why I'm proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you the ability to access all 3 major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding the left. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you're sending the message that you support free speech, religious freedom, the sanctity of life, Second Amendment, and our military veterans and first responders. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes switching easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their team will help you find the best plan for your needs. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation when you use the offer code Jason. Join me, make the switch today, patriotmobile.com/Jason. That's patriotmobile.com/Jason or call 972-PATRIOT. Guys, I've had the phone now for more than a year. No problems. It's been great. I know where my money's going. I know who it's supporting, Patriot Mobile. Shemeka, what do you know about the Notorious? And T.J., I hope you took some notes on some of the things Rachel Maddow said and some of the things I've said. I'm going to circle back to you, but I just want to go to Shemeka first and just say, what do you know about the Notorious GOP? How are black people responding to him in North Carolina?
You know, I think most people are excited. I do know that I have a friend who used to have the software or the capabilities to run background checks, like extensive background checks on people. And so I do remember encountering this woman who was a popular Democrat who gave money to his campaign for lieutenant governor. So I do think people on both sides are actually excited about him simply because, as you described him, he is a man that is strong in his faith and he stands up for what he believes. And that's what I love about him. I can remember meeting him at CPAC in 2021 when he had just won lieutenant governor. And I remember thinking, wow, like his stature alone just kind of made you think that he's serious, he's about his business, and he's going to get things done. So when I think of Mark Keith Robinson, I'm all for him being the governor of North Carolina. And it's funny that the left aren't excited because he was the first Black lieutenant governor of North Carolina. They love the first Blacks. I'm not sure why they aren't pushing that, his skin color. And I'm not surprised about Rachel Van Dyke actually being negative towards him. She doesn't like any man, much less a strong Black man. But Mark, I think he's going to take it. At least I'm going to be pushing for him over the next several months.
Shemeka, what do you think about my contention that, and I say this respectfully, prayerfully, and just hopefully, I do think he's got to address his weight problem. And the same applies for me. I just want to be crystal clear. But I do think he's going to have, if he wants to live up to his full potential, and because I really think this guy could be president, and the weight issue is the only flaw in his game, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think, I guess, to even pass the physical or to say he's in great health, he would have to drop some weight. I would think he would be considered obese. So I do think that if he addresses that, he can just go as far as he would like to. I don't think it's going to keep people from looking at him now and saying, this is who I want. But I just think when it comes to being president, they always have to take that test and see how healthy they are. So he should go ahead and start working on that now, because we don't want to do all this hard work and get him into office, for him to have a heart attack or something. Not speaking anything over him. I'm just saying we know that obesity would be the leading cause. So we want him to get that under control.
How do you, there's part of me that thinks, and I made the argument to you all this morning, like, am I using the right words in the criminal justice system? In the federal government, don't they have some kind of racial enhancement penalties? Am I using the right phrase where you can be committed, you can commit some crime and then they can say, well, if they think race is involved, we can put these racial enhancement charges.
Hate crime stuff, let's see.
Yeah, and so it's like, these guys hate Donald Trump. The left does. But I do think the left has some special racial enhancement and I'm not trying to say that Trump's not hated, because he is, and look what they're doing and the lawfare and all that other stuff. But when the left, when someone black steps out of line who they feel like you owe us and we own you, there's just like a little extra level they'll go to with their animus. And so I really think he could be attacked on a level even more vicious than the attacks on Trump. And the attacks on Trump have been unprecedented.
Yeah, I agree. Just as someone who is conservative or considers myself to be conservative or vote right, I get some of the attacks, the Uncle Toms and the coon and you don't like black people and you're a bed wench. Never been with a white man in my life, but I'm a bed wench simply because I vote right. And they come at me with everything because there is this idea that black people should vote a certain way according to skin color. Black people think that way, and so do white Democrats. So I definitely feel like they're going to come after him and try to wrangle him back in. But that, again, is where, when I say his stature, his presence just brings so much strength, you see that? That's what I like about him as well, because when you have these people trying to attack you, even those that claim they will do physical violence against you, you need somebody like Mark Robinson that's not afraid, that's going to say, hey, punks jump up to get beat down. If this is the day you want to rumble, let's rumble. And so I love that about Mark Robinson. And that's what more of black conservatives have to do. They have to not be afraid, because so many people think they're going to roll up on us simply because they think black conservatives are like county school kids that are going to be afraid and wonder why you're treating us so bad. But a lot of us like, no, I can throw them things. So this is what I like about Mark. He doesn't seem afraid. And I think more people will jump on the bandwagon, and he'll just make it cool and popular, even for black men, to say, no, I'm putting my foot down. I'm going to be a leader in my community, a leader in my home, a leader in the church. The upper room, the church he was preaching at in that clip, they've always been known for just kind of saying what it is and not being afraid of the fallout that would come from it. So around here, we know if the upper room is backing you, ain't too many people gonna stand against that.
I want to, this racial enhancement level that I'm talking about, I want to clarify and just say, like, take Clarence Thomas. Yes, they came at him with Anita Hill. And you know, that was obviously some BS or whatnot. But what was even more astonishing to me is that I would say for at least the first 10 to 15 years of him being on the Supreme Court, like, legitimate news outlets would write pieces questioning his intelligence. And it was like he was the dumbest person to ever be on the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And it's mind-blowing. It's that they did that to Clarence Thomas, who clearly survived it and overcame. And now I don't think anyone is questioning his intellect. They've given up on that. They just, you know, he has no morals, or he... who's the guy, his buddy down in Arkansas or whatever, he says, maybe he's been bought and paid off for, I don't know why I can think of his name, but he's getting illegal benefits or whatever. But the whole, they question his intelligence. And then I look at someone like Ben Carson, one of the great, a neurosurgeon, And then they've now questioned his intelligence. So there's, and not that they don't question Trump's intelligence, but I mean, I'm just, these guys are so excellent and beyond reproach. And that's why, and then what they have legalized among us as black people and as black pundits and commentators, not only have they legalized it, but they also reward it. And so I want to play you this clip of Charles Barkley now has had to walk back his comments of, I'm gonna beat up anybody I see in a Trump shirt, any black person I see in a Trump shirt. But I just want people to think about, how did Charles get in a position, in a mindset where he thought, hey, I can do this? And clearly the culture that has been created has said, no, you black people, you can make music talking about killing each other, and you can go on TV and talk about doing violence to each other, and we're all good with it. Now we know, and just think, Gayle King tried to, in real time, a little bit push back on Charles, a little bit. But Gayle King should have been the perfect person to say, no, Charles, that don't play. Snoop Dogg threatened me. And we went to war with Snoop Dogg over that. And I'm not gonna, you just can't say this kind of thing, Charles. That's out of bounds. That's what she should have done based on her own history. But as it relates to black men that stand on Jesus Christ, there are no rules. You can say and do anything to them. I'm not trying to put a little special level of victimhood on us. But anyway, I want to play the clip of Charles backpedaling a little bit yesterday with Gayle King.
That clip that you all just saw has been seen millions of times, and there have been quite a few articles written about it. And that's before we even get to the social media comments, which look a lot like this gentleman. He's very large. He's wearing a mugshot of the T-shirt, or photoshops of large men wearing the T-shirt that say, "I hear Charles Barkley's looking for me." They all think that you are ready to run around punching people who vote for Donald Trump. Now, I know when you say that, that was just you making a point. That's not something you would literally do, going around attacking people, right?
Well, let me say, is this my camera right there? I want to make sure people can hear me.
Yeah.
Number one, obviously, I'm not gonna go around punching random strangers in the face, first and foremost. Secondly, people can vote for who they want to.
Yes.
People can vote for who they want to. The point I was trying to make.
There you go.
No, the point I was making. I wasn't trying to make it.
Okay.
When Donald Trump compares his plight with that of the black person,
Yes.
that is what I had a problem with. Now, I do want to say this. I want to make it perfectly clear. If you're a black person and you're wearing a Donald Trump mugshot, you are a freaking idiot. And I'm only saying freaking idiot because they won't let me say what I really want to say. But you can figure it out. It starts with an F. But you are. Listen, people can vote for who they want to.
Yes.
But for him to compare his plight with that other African, I don't even like that term, the black people in America is asinine and stupid. And like I said, you guys can put on those too small T-shirts like y'all got them on. Get a big size if you're going to wear it. Don't put on a medium and act like you got muscles. But that is so, that bothered me.
That irritates.
It bothered me because for him to compare a white billionaire who is in trouble because of stuff he did.
Yes.
Not because of stuff, like black people get in trouble stuff that happened didn't deserve to do.
Yes.
But for him to compare that to black people's plight, that's just stupid on their part. I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all got Nielsen boxes if y'all gonna wear those tight T-shirts around the house and somebody take pictures. But I'll stick by what I said. If you're wearing a Trump mugshot around, you are a freaking idiot.
All the different things that we wear around, a T-shirt with Trump. And so I would love, my follow-up, if I was Gayle King, would have been, well, Charles, how do you feel about the guys that run around with their pants hanging off their butts with their butt cheeks out? How you feel about that? You got any comments? And I could just walk through a bunch of different things. The guys that got tats all over their face, all tatted up there, how you feel about that? There's all kinds of stupid things young people do, kids do, black guys, white guys, whatever. But it's the Trump T-shirts, the bridge too far, and it's Trump making some analogy that hey, I'm being treated unfairly in the criminal court system, and black people can relate to that. That's just a fact. And it's just a fact. And so pretending to be bothered by it, it's all just a subtle threat. Black people stay in line. And I can't wait. And Shemeka, I'm gonna let you go, but I just respond to this. If you had to speculate, at some point Charles Barkley is gonna have to talk about Mark Robinson. What do you think he's gonna say about Mark?
First, Jason, I would like to say I don't understand how he can sit there and talk to Gayle King, and it's okay for her to have a white woman's hair, but we can't have a white man on our shirt. And I do think he's going to have to address Mark Robinson at some point. But I think what Charles has realized is that bullets can get through his security, and you better stop. This is what they would call dog whistles. If it was on the other side, he sent out a dog whistle to people to say, if you see someone wearing something for Trump, it's okay to run up on them. And I think he realized exactly what he did. And so his ego won't let him completely walk it back, but he had to walk it back a bit because everybody ain't gonna just let you throw stuff at them, snatch their hats off, or mistreat them because of what they're wearing. I have tons of Trump hats. I have never walked around in my city and had to worry about anybody snatching anything off my head. And so I think that Barkley realized I was thinking about a different type of conservative, the ones that don't go to black barbershops, the ones that, clothes might be a little bit, he realized not everybody are those types. And you might run up on the wrong one and it'll be some hymn singing and flower bringing. I think that's what Barkley realized, and he better stay on the good foot.
Shemeka, excellent point. Thank you so much. You sparked something in me. Thank you. What Charles realized and what someone explained to him is, Charles, you just let off a dog whistle, and you just basically told other black men, if you see someone in Trump deal, confront them physically. And so what Charles is trying to get out in front of is, let's say that happens. Let's say someone runs up on, what's Zeke's last name? Abraham?
Arkham?
Arkham, yeah, Zeke Arkham. Someone runs up on Zeke Arkham or runs up on the wrong black dude and punches, shoves, gets in the face, and the next thing, a fight breaks out and someone gets harmed. Someone gets shot, someone gets knocked out. People are then going to connect that to Charles Barkley and say, Charles Barkley instigated this. To say, basically, by their logic, it's the insurrection law or the insurrection rule that he just set off with his comments. He just told his followers to go out and harm people, black men who are supporting Donald Trump. Someone explained that to Charles, and so he tried to walk it back out. TJ, I'm sorry, I want to bring you into this conversation. Before I do, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about our great friends at Good Ranchers. Did you know that mRNA vaccines are approved and in use for pigs in the United States? The mystery continues to grow in the meat industry, and every day I'm more thankful for my Good Ranchers subscription. I don't have to worry about imported meat, unknown vaccines, or experimental things in the meat that I feed my family. During their Say MRNO to mRNA sale, Good Ranchers is offering you a free 10-pound Easter ham with any subscription. Their ham is fantastic, and unlike the pork at the store, it is guaranteed to be free from mRNA vaccines. This is a $119 ham that you will get for free with my code FEARLESS. So go to goodranchers.com today to say mRNO for your meat. During this sale, every subscription enjoys $25 off any box, a free $119 Heritage ham, and the Good Ranchers lifetime quality commitment. Their promise to never compromise on quality. Plus, with their Never MRNO pledge, you can be sure that you're getting meat that's free from any unknown or potentially harmful additives every single month. What I really love about Good Ranchers is their commitment to transparency. They believe that you have the right to know exactly what's in your food, and they're not afraid to show you. They're amazing supporters of this show, so support them in the stand they are taking. No one else is being as loud or as active on this issue as them, and it's because they genuinely want to provide you with the best meat in America. Go to goodranchers.com and use my promo code FEARLESS to get your free Easter ham with your subscription today. Goodranchers.com, code FEARLESS to say MRNO to MRNA. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. TJ, you sit and listen to me ramble and rant and rave. What do you think about my narrative that Mark Robinson's going to be a really big deal in American politics, particularly if he gets his weight under control? The Notorious GOP is going to be Big Papa in politics.
He was the only lieutenant governor in America that I knew. So he was already headed there.
Winston Sears.
Okay. He's one of two that I know. All right. I didn't even know my own in Missouri. Maybe could pick him out of a police lineup. So I do think he has the big personality, and he's boisterous enough to do that. And he has a lot of Trump in him. He does not care. It is so clear in his videos. He's like, get all of this right before he starts talking. So he just doesn't care. I think that plays with the MAGA base. I think your point earlier, it's actually called sentencing enhancement.
Sentencing, yeah.
And so I think that's absolutely true. And the reason's obvious, right? If people tell T.J. Moe that you can't make an example out of me because 60 million white people voted for Trump or whatever it is, right? Out of 70, what if 60 million? You can't throw all white people back in the line. But if you hammer a black dude bad enough, you may be able to throw a bunch of black people back in line. So the sentence enhancement is pretty obvious there. Harlan Crow was the name, by the way, you were looking for with Clarence Thomas. I think I'll argue with you a little bit about the weight issue. And the reason, to me, is a little bit obvious. One, he's destroying the stereotype that white people are afraid of large, bald black men. Because 60, 70, 80 million will show up to vote for him. Yeah. Right? It's like, this is the guy that you walk to the other side of the street so you don't have to walk by. But now we actually want you to be our president. So destroying a stereotype would be good. The other thing is he projects strength. He's got a loud, strong voice, and he stands up there unafraid, and people like that. Like, Trump's got a weight issue, not as bad as him. Trump ain't 400 pounds, but he's certainly not skinny by any means. And so, I think, we talked about this in the call this morning, I adore Ben Carson. I think he'd be a very good president. I think he projects weakness. He's soft-spoken. He kind of looks frail and small. Trump's taller than he is when he stands next to him. He just looks bigger and stronger. And this dude looks like a left tackle. Like, meet me in the street. That is what he's projecting. And I think people like that in a president. Particularly, we've got a guy who could croak over and die any second, and no one would be surprised. To have a guy that looks like he'd beat you in a street fight, I think that works.
I think there's some truth to that, but I do think once you get to the presidential level, I think it's not an issue right now with him running for governor. Once you get to the presidential level where we're constantly having conversations, and we'll be leaving a conversation about Joe Biden and his age and his cognitive decline and blah, 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 and literally just because of the sentencing enhancement level. And again, they've attacked Trump about his weight. But with this black dude, they will go incredibly. He needs to take that off the table so it cannot be discussed. I'm talking about if he ever aspires to be president, which I really think he could be, because I'm just telling you, this is a combination of the total package, the bombast of Trump, the quick-wittedness of Rush Limbaugh, the integrity, and the standing 10 toes down like Clarence Thomas. He's got that. He's the complete package, except for that one tiny issue. And what do you think of my argument that like Rachel Maddow and the left, they can already see it. That there's already been a concern about the black vote, and this guy could just enhance those problems, multiply those problems, because it will be such a clear example of like, that this narrative y'all put, it just doesn't work. This dude goes to a black church, got a black wife, for lack of a better, because there is no black or white way to talk, but he talks like a black man.
Totally.
And I mean, when you get him on the phone, you ain't wondering, is this dude black or white? You get Ben Carson on the phone, and hold on, say that again.
Yeah. That's right.
Say y'all, and just, you have no questions as it relates to this guy, and they're scared to death of it.
Well, I think that's right, and it was clear from the start. Like Ben Carson, I hoped would be a player, but it was clear he was not taking black people with him. I mean, that seemed clear from day one. Mark Robinson might take some black people with him, and that is scaring Rachel Maddow to death, to the point where, I'll go back a little bit. He's so much more articulate than Trump. It's different worlds of ability. Trump is bombastic, and he says things, and he stands by them, but it's like he can't really explain his positions very well. And part of that is he's 70-something years old. And do you know how old Mark Robinson is?
I would think early 50s.
Yes.
Keep talking, I'll look it up.
Yeah, so I think part of that is it, but they had to misconstrue that Rachel Maddow deal, his position on the Holocaust, right? They had to say, he's a Holocaust denier. He was talking about gun control, and he was saying they didn't just rip guns away from 6 million Jews one day and then take them to a concentration camp the next day. The whole post is about gun control. You saw how they did that. They blurred everything back and just put the one little spot to take it out of context, and they did that with each story. Every story, that his sins are saying, hey, we shouldn't have gun control. I don't like Black Panther. That made Rachel Maddow's show. Can you believe this big black dude doesn't like Black Panther?
I didn't like it either, Rachel.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He thought the Parkland shooters were annoying, as the rest of the world does. And he criticized public school teachers, probably in the context of, hey, you're grooming our kids, so please stop. Those are his big sins.
Let me throw in, she would say, and the people listening that agree with her would say, no. He didn't like Black Panther, and he mentioned that an agnostic Jew perhaps financed Black Panther. And trust me, Rachel Maddow and everybody knows you are not, as a black person in America, allowed to mention that 3-letter word. Don't talk about them. And so that was Rachel Maddow very politely saying, put your chain on, ninja, as our guy E. Michael Jones said. I know that irritates some of you, but it's facts. And so it's like, this is what is so scary, I'm telling you, because there has been an alliance and a partnership, and I want to apologize to you sensitive people up front, but I'm just speaking facts. There's been an alliance between black leftists and Jewish leftists and the whole liberal movement, that cabal of black liberals, white liberals, and Jewish liberals. And they see Mark Robinson as a threat, and they keep seeing more and more black people getting comfortable talking about something we're not allowed to talk about. And again, with Kanye, you can call him crazy. With Dave Chappelle, you can call him crazy. With Kyrie Irving, he's a stupid basketball player. It's an uncomfortable conversation that has to be had, and people like Mark Robinson and Candace Owens and Jason Whitlock, unfortunately, keep talking around about that issue, and people are very, very uncomfortable with it. She literally, and again, this is the thing that Rachel Maddow comes all dressed up in some kind and talks to people in this little friendly way. Like, oh, I'm perfectly harmless and I'm Rachel Maddow, and she leans into the camera and she just comes off like, oh, don't be afraid of me. But she is lethal. She again was with that segment on Monday was Negro fall back is what she was saying. We're not going to have this. And Negro, this is what we're going to do to you. We're going to distort any and everything you ever said, and we're going to make you regret ever challenging us. And so y'all can, this little harmless white woman, she's a killer. She is a killer. And she is not your friend like you think she is. I'm talking mostly to black people. She's not your friend. She's the friend of other secular elites. People who deny Jesus Christ, period, end of story. You got a final thought, or I can move on to my daily dose of Stephen A. Smith. Have we said enough here?
I agree.
I've said enough. Hey guys, make sure you're signing up for Roll Call. Growth Requires Sacrifice is the theme of this year's Fearless Army Roll Call 2.0. It's brought to you this year by Preborn. It's an all-day event right here in Nashville, Tennessee on June 1st that will bring men together under a united banner of godliness and responsibility. Go to fearlessarmyrollcall.com to reserve your spot today. Stephen A. Cap, next. Hello, Fearless Army. I'm Jason Whitlock, your leader. I'm going to spend 2024 discussing growth and sacrifice. Hard times are here. Harder times are coming. What has stopped American growth and caused a regression in fundamental freedoms and values? A lack of sacrifice. Our ancestors sacrificed for our benefit. We have not sacrificed to protect the progress they died for. No sacrifice, no freedom. What impedes man's willingness to sacrifice? His ignorance, his perversion, his pride, his ingratitude, and his cowardice, his rejection of God. The Bible is a story about the power and the necessity of sacrifice. Sacrifice is the sun, rain, and fertilizer of growth. Growth is our life purpose. Grow in the knowledge, wisdom, fear, obedience, and reverence to the Most High. Growth requires sacrifice will be our theme for Roll Call 2.0 this summer, June 1, right back here in Nashville. We're excited to welcome you. Let me spend a minute explaining what GROWTH actually stands for us in the Fearless Army. The G is for game plan. In order to properly grow, it's essential we work from the strategic game plan spelled out in the Bible. The R, responsibility. As we grow as men, we understand and accept our responsibilities to God, family, and teammates. The O, ownership. We embrace ownership of our destiny. Outsiders do not determine our fate. The W, wisdom. We honor, value, and share the wisdom imparted to us by elders, coaches, and leaders. The T, trust. We must be worthy of trust. The reliability of a man's word defines him far more than popularity and material possessions. The H, humility. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. That's straight from Proverbs 22:4. Come join us in Nashville as we talk about growth and sacrifice and how without sacrifice there will be no growth. Roll Call 2.0 right here in Nashville, Saturday, June 1st. Welcome back. Time for a little Stephen A. Cap. Stephen A. Is involved in a little bit of controversy, not with me, but with Pat McAfee. The New York Post reports that a verbal tussle between ESPN host Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee was really, really heated a couple of weeks ago. Let me read from, I believe, the Ryan Glass-Spiegel's story here, the New York Post. Tempers flared in an explosive argument in a recent phone call between two of ESPN's highest profile personalities. The Post has learned that a private conversation several weeks ago between Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith got heated as things escalated to the point where McAfee called Smith an MFer. The dispute arose from the creative differences involving a yet-to-be-announced project that Stephen A. Smith is executive producing through his own production company, Mr. SAS Productions. That will ultimately air on ESPN. Let's see. The Post heard that in the aftermath of the spat, Smith had banned McAfee from appearing on First Take, where he had weekly Tuesday appearances during the football season. Anyway, Stephen A. and McAfee, when reached by Glass-Steagall, now they're all playing nice, and via text and email, they respond, everything's squashed. There's no beef here. There's no problem here. Look, this is a story that isn't going to go away. ESPN has turned over total control to its talent. And these guys, from Pat McAfee, a football player and punter, he's not a trained journalist. He didn't prepare for a media career. He just invented one. I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking him. I'm just hats off to him. But he has no respect for protocol and what, generally speaking, goes on in the media industry, chain of command, any of that. Stephen A. Smith, the same thing. Different degree for a different reason. But when you've been promoted well beyond your talent and or qualifications, and so let me walk you through that, because Stephen A. has talent for talking on TV. But how did he get here? Pretending to be a sports writer while editors rewrote everything that he tried to write. That's how he got here. And so he was ushered up the line as a sports writer. He had no writing talent. Those are facts. That's not me trying to take a pot shot at him. That's the truth. Then they transitioned him, and he doesn't know very much about sports at all. That's just a fact. That's why he makes so many factual errors. That's why he says stupid things like, hey, kick a field goal on third down just in case you miss. You can kick it on fourth down. He just doesn't know much about sports. He's been ushered and promoted into this position because he's, in my view, this is my opinion, he's a pathological liar. And that's why we do the Daily Dose of Stephen A. Smith. That's why we point out like these obvious things that he says that just aren't true. That's how you get the position. People comfortable just telling lies and doing what they're told. He rose up because he did what he was told from his handlers. They rewrote his stuff. They pushed him up the sports writing ladder. They've done the same thing to the talk ladder and created the myth that Stephen A. Smith is some sort of insightful, profound pontificator about sports. He's not insightful. He's not profound. He's loud, obnoxious, and some people might say entertaining. Some people might say that. Others might say it's really fraudulent, it bores me. But he's created this myth. And part of the myth, and others have helped him, part of this myth, I've been number one in sports talk TV for 10 years. And he's allowed to say this over and over and over again, and people now believe it, like Stephen A. entered a race. It's like he started, it's like in auto racing, they talk about pole position or qualifying. They're acting like Stephen A. qualified, he started the race in 15th place and then advanced his way up to number one in morning sports talk TV. There was only one sports talk TV show, Cold Pizza. Then it became First Take. And then Stephen A. got hooked up with Skip Bayless. They weren't competing against anybody. Fox Sports didn't have a morning talk show. There was no one nationally they were competing against. So, of course, he's number one. And he's working for ESPN, a giant. And so, basically, like ESPN is steroids. But again, they just keep repeating and repeating it. And people start buying it like, yeah, he's been number one for 10 years. And it's like, well, he's been in a league of one for most of that time. And now he's in a league of two competing against an expansion team, FS1. No one expected, if he were number two at this, he would be a laughingstock. It would be one of the most incredible upsets in the history of anything. But they just keep repeating it, repeating it, and repeating it to hype up the value, to pump up, to inflate the value of Stephen A. Smith. And I want to play you this clip of Dan Le Batard. He's talking about Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, and then I'm going to break down for you what Le Batard is actually doing. Play the clip.
But I have found fascinating, Stugotz, over the last 15 years of what Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless built, right? Because a decade as the #1 show on television, that's like unheard of. What Stephen A. Smith is worth right now, after very quietly, Stugotz, saying a couple times, I'm underpaid on television. He welcomes in McAfee and all these $17 million contracts, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, when he's the voice and face of ESPN, and he's now underpaid as soon as they all arrive. He welcomes them all in, and now his ratings are giant.
So I just want to explain to you what Le Batard's doing. And I say this without animus. It's a hat tip to Le Batard. He's trying to recruit Stephen A. Smith and or Pat McAfee to take a deal from DraftKings. And to basically, Le Batard's got this thing, Meadowlark Media. It's financed by DraftKings or FanDuel or one of these sports gambling sites. And Le Batard and John Skipper, who he's in partnership with, John Skipper, former president, chairman of ESPN, is in partnership with Le Batard with Meadowlark Media. Le Batard and Skipper hate ESPN and have it out for them. Le Batard's hatred mostly stems from his relationship with John Skipper, but John Skipper's upset about the way he got pushed out at ESPN over his coke habit and getting compromised by some prostitute or some drug dealer or whatever he got compromised by, and he had to leave his job. And so they're trying to stir up trouble for ESPN and try to bait Stephen A. Smith. Come on over here to DraftKings, bro. Come on over here with us. They're going to cut you an amazing $150, $200 million paycheck, and you can be on DraftKings and you can be a guest on my show, and we can build something to compete with ESPN. Again, I'm not saying this to denigrate Le Batard, but I'm trying to explain to you what he's actually doing. He's recruiting. Leave ESPN, take this deal from DraftKings, and now you can be a guest on my show, I can be a guest on your show, and hopefully we can bait Pat McAfee or someone else come over. You can be independent. You'll never have to answer to Norby Williamson or Jimmy Pitaro or any of those people again. That's why Le Batard is selling the lie. Oh, it's just, what's he doing? It's just amazing what Stephen A. and Skip Bayless have built 15 years. I'm not trying to dump on those guys. They got a morning sports talk show when ESPN had a lot of clout and influence and had a lot of patience waiting on them to generate ratings. And they did that. And they came up with this concept of embrace debate, or the brand of embrace debate. And people have been pretending like they've built a Goliath. His ratings are incredible. The guy averages 450,000 viewers. I'm not taking a dump on it, but it's 450,000 viewers. Le Batard knows because he's very good friends with Eric Rideholm and Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon. Rideholm created or runs Pardon the Interruption. Obviously, you know who Kornheiser and Wilbon are. These guys used to routinely get 1.5 million viewers on Pardon the Interruption. 1.2, 1.3 million and a half routinely. I used to do the show back when they got those types of ratings. And so now to sit here, and even to this day, and I know it's just a 30-minute show, but Pardon the Interruption still generates an average higher number of viewers than Stephen A. Smith. They probably now today average around 600, 650K. Stephen A. average around 450. Le Batard knows this. But he knows that Kornheiser and Wilbon, they ain't going anywhere. They can't be recruited. That they don't have the kind of buzz that Stephen A. has right now. And they're just not going anywhere. They're old. They're not doing it. So Le Batard's selling it's incredible what Stephen A. has done. And he's built this juggernaut. And oh my God, his ratings are gigantic and enormous. Now, the whole cable sports TV thing is dying. Le Batard knows that. That's why he left, took the check from DraftKings or FanDuel or whoever they got their deal with. He thinks that Stephen A. and or Pat McAfee should do the same thing. And he's trying to come on over here to my team. I'll help you sell the myth, Stephen A., that you're this great broadcaster. You're the second coming of Howard Cosell. It's a gimmick. Now that's my daily dose of Stephen A. Smith. It's not hate. It's an explanation. So that you have critical insight and you can understand what's going on with these media personalities. All right, next up, I want to share with you my experience with T.Rex arms when I purchased my first guns and went out shooting and had a long day with Lucas Botkin and the guys at T.Rex arms. We'll watch that. That'll close out the show. Then you'll hear it tomorrow. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow. Doritos perhaps is going to be Bud Light 2.0.
Grandpa's feeling a little frisky today.
Doritos has gotten into bed with one of these transgender men. He's a brand ambassador for Doritos, I think in Spain or something.
Yo abogo por aniquilar y destruir por completamente, abolir la familia tradicional nuclear monógama. No es que vaya a darle una paliza a mis padres, ni mucho menos, pero creo que ya está bien de tener un canon.
So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
I speak Spanish fluently, and I think he said that, hey, I've got a bat and balls, but I think I'm a girl, and Doritos taste good when I'm tossing salads.
You sound like a gay.
I bring out the worst in you.
My fearless soldiers, Jason Whitlock. I'm here at T.Rex Arms.
So we want to educate them on different pistols, what can different pistols do, how capable are they, different equipment, rifles, what rifles should you buy. So here on the table I have a bunch of different rifles that are very popular that range from $400 all the way up to about $6,000 if you want to get wild. So we film a lot of videos in here. This is kind of one of our sets. I'm in here a lot filming, so like right now. So when's the last time you handled a firearm?
My dad took me and my brother out shooting 50 years ago.
Okay. So you're obviously familiar with the very polarizing AR-15. It is the most popular rifle in our country, even more than the Ruger 1022. This one is from PSA. They are, I mean, a lot of them look just like this, and you can get them for around $400. So the price of an Xbox, you can get a very similar rifle. I know people watch this video will be upset, but very similar rifle, if not more or less the same, as what the military is issuing right now for $400 to $500. This one over here is a little bit more expensive. This is a Daniel Defense rifle. This is really the most common one that people walk into a store and go, I want a nice rifle, and they buy this one. It's about $1,900, and then it kind of works its way down with other models out there.
Is this just like a different version of the AR-15, or this is AR-15 and this is something completely
So these
different?
are all AR-15s except for this. It's technically different. It's just different manufacturers with different manufacturing standards, different barrels, different components, different parts, better quality control than this one right here. Generally, there is a reason why a gun that's $500 is going to be different than a gun that's $2,000. But the great debate is this 4 times as good as this? Well, nobody knows.
What do you think?
Not 4 times better. Maybe 2 times. It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. Better rifles or more expensive rifles typically will have less reliability issues. They'll have better quality control. If you buy a cheap firearm, it is possible, and the likelihood is much higher, that you'll have issues immediately because of their quality control or lack thereof. So these all range at different price points. Handguns, thankfully, are pretty straightforward. Pretty much every single polymer handgun, so it's got a plastic grip, metal slide, is around $500 to $600. There's a lot of great options on the market. One thing that has changed in the last 10 years is if people wanted to conceal carry a small pistol, like this one, they used to be restricted to 32 ACP or 380, these tiny little bullets, which are not they're not super lethal. They will kill someone, but they're not super lethal. Now everyone is just making small handguns and all these different larger handguns in 9mm, which is the standard bullet that pretty much everybody uses in the military, in law enforcement. So everything is much more standardized now than it was 10 years ago, which I appreciate. This is a handgun that I bought for my wife. She actually prefers a larger handgun, the Glock 19, this one right here. This is a smaller, skinnier pistol, so it's easier to conceal. That was my theory getting this for her. She actually prefers carrying a Glock 19 because it's a larger handgun and it's easier to shoot. So when you're selecting a handgun for carry or home defense, that is something you have to think about. Smaller handguns, while they're easier to conceal, are harder to shoot. Larger handguns, and you're a bigger guy. So
harder to shoot accurately, or just harder to pull the trigger?
Both. Because it's harder to shoot, control recoil, it's harder, and for you with your larger hands, it's grabbing this is going to kind of suck. It's just harder to shoot and manipulate than a larger handgun, which is why my wife carries a larger handgun, because it's just easier to shoot. And that's really a decision a lot of people have to make. Are they carrying a pistol for comfort, or are they carrying a pistol for capability? And that's just something that people have to figure out, what they're willing to sacrifice, what kinds of clothing they wear or what they don't wear. Do they want to wear athletic clothing all the time, and that restricts what they might carry? But a lot of our customers are carrying larger handguns with pistol lights so they can identify what they're shooting at if it's dark. They're running red dots so they can get a better sight picture, and a lot of them are carrying appendix. So the pistol's here in the front. It's very accessible, very easy to get to, and I can carry a larger handgun and conceal just fine. The most popular handgun right now in America is the Glock, which is great because it's an awesome pistol. The thing people like about Glocks is they are very simple and they're very straightforward. There's no external safeties except for the one in the trigger. You have a magazine release, you have a slide release or slide stop to lock the slide to the rear if you have to clear a malfunction, and you have the trigger. And that's it. There's no extra stuff going on with the pistol. It's very straightforward. The mags are these sort of polymer plastic magazines. They're really nice, and it's just a very straightforward pistol, and it's very reliable, which a lot of people take for granted when they are selecting a handgun, but reliability is something that you really do want to prioritize, because when you actually need to shoot your pistol, you want it to work. You don't want it to not work. And there are some guns that we have that I go to the range with, and I get malfunctions much more than these Glock pistols, and I pretty much only shoot Glock at this point, largely due to that reason. So what kind of handgun have you been interested, based on your research and knowledge?
AR-15 and a Glock.
And a Glock.
Yeah.
Good to go. That is the most popular combination. So that's handguns. AR-15s, kind of depends on what your budget is. These higher end guns, they're around $1,000 for this full gun, $1,200. This one's $1,900. You start with one of these, you're good to go. You won't have to worry about anything. For people who are on a budget, these PSA rifles, they're $400 to $500, are not too bad. Unfortunately, thanks to the government and all their wisdom, there are a lot of rules as to what is legal for us to own. So these rifles have 16-inch barrels, which is legal for everyone, more or less, in most states. These rifles that are shorter are considered short-barreled rifles, and we have to pay a $200 tax stamp to the government to have permission to own these, and then wait 9 months to get the tax stamp back. It was a tax they imposed back in the 20s. $200 in the 20s was like $180,000 or something at the time, to prevent normal people from being able to own Tommy guns and other kinds of weapons back then. Inflation's actually helped us in this case. Now $200 isn't as bad. But it's an unconstitutional ruling because supposedly this rifle's more deadly than this one, which is actually the opposite. This has a longer barrel. The bullet is coming out at a faster feet per second, faster speed, and that actually causes more damage once the round gets into your body, versus these shorter barrels. But there's this lovely workaround that a lot of people have been utilizing for years, where they put a brace on this rifle, which is considered a pistol, so they can wrap it around their arm.
That's what Gasson's got.
Yeah, it's for disabled people is what it's for. But you don't have to wrap it to your arm. You just, kind of grab it and shoot it. So this is technically a pistol. Again, in the government's infinite wisdom, they like to classify guns like this.
There is no $200 weight
Not on this
fee
one.
on this one.
No.
So I've seen Gasson as the president of the Blades. I've seen him travel with this. My thought would be I would keep this at home, and I would travel with a pistol. Is that?
Yep. That's very, very common, yeah.
Is there any reason really for me to take this outside of my home? Do you hunt with this?
These are for home defense. These are for the purpose of the Second Amendment. Yes, you could shoot a deer with these. Yes, you could shoot smaller animals. I shoot skunks and possums and stuff with them. But these are meant for the two-legged variety, is what these were really intended for when they were designed. So
this is 1200. What's this?
That one's about the same.
And is there a reason to have more than one of these?
So it's funny you bring that up. There are a lot of gun owners who go, I just want lots of guns.
Yeah.
And they go buy 10 or 20 rifles. And the funny thing is they have all these guns, and usually they don't have optics, and they're not zeroed, so they're not very effective to begin with. They don't upgrade them with lights so they can actually see what they're shooting at. They don't build rifles for specific purposes. They just buy rifles to have rifles. Now, I recommend if somebody is, concerned about what's going on in America right now, they think about, hey, what are certain capabilities I want to have with my firearms as if I were like a soldier, a military guy or whatever, and you would actually buy different kinds of guns for different things. So, for example, this rifle right here, this is sort of a very small and compact sort of a replacement for submachine guns. I can put this in a bag very easily. So if I had to travel somewhere, and there were a bunch of riots, mobs, the city's on fire, weird stuff, and I don't want to just rely on a handgun. I want something a little beefier. This is much easier to put in the front seat of my car, drop into a bag, put in my backpack even, than this rifle right here. But if I want to, get on a rooftop, I might want this rifle because it's got a longer barrel. I could put a magnified optic on it. So you could have I usually recommend 3 different rifles that can all do different things. Sort of a sniper rifle you could use for hunting, your standard AR-15 for home defense, whatever, and then a smaller gun for if you do have to travel but you want more capability than just a handgun, because handguns really aren't that great at stopping people. A lot of people don't realize that. They don't always work great. They're harder to shoot. They don't do a whole lot of damage necessarily. Rifles is really what you want if you get into a situation where you have to, shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
If he had a handgun, it would have turned out very differently. So there's different use cases for different rifles. I think going out and buying 20 rifles, if you have the money, cool, that's great. The reality is most people don't spend their money wisely, as we know. And it's better to actually buy specific guns for certain things.
This one here doesn't fold up like this one, though.
This one does not. This is a special rifle. It's not an AR-15. It operates a little differently, so they can have a folding stock. This AR-15 right here does not have a folding stock because there's a spring that goes back here for the recoil to work. So this one can't fold easily unless you buy a bunch of expensive stuff. This is actually my wife's truck gun. So this can go in her car and she can have a rifle because she asked for one recently. And I said, that is great. I'll buy you a gun. So she has a rifle in her car. I've got one just like it in mine. And we have it just in case.
I think I want to go with these two.
A Glock and this. We'll take them to the range. We'll shoot them.
Yeah.
We'll blast them.
Finally, get to the good part. Not that I didn't enjoy what we were doing, but I came out here to shoot some guns. Appreciate these headphones.
Oh, absolutely.
I've got Sexy Red playing in my ear right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I listen to music while I train. I know what you're talking about.
Okay. No, I don't have music. But anyway, you've told me a lot about these guns. I think we got some Glocks and some ARs out here. What am I about to experience? What do I need to know before I start?
Cool. So the first thing is a lot of people are scared of guns because they're scared of what they don't understand. I'm terrified of skydiving. I don't want to do it because I don't know how parachutes work, and I'm afraid I'm just going to splat on the ground because I don't know skydiving. Once you understand how guns work and you understand the basics of gun safety, there is zero reason to ever be scared or terrified of guns. And one of the funniest things about the gun industry is gun owners are some of the people that are the most terrified of firearms because they don't respect them and they don't fully understand them and they don't train enough. So, first things first, we're going to be utilizing the 4 firearm safety rules, which I'm sure you've heard before.
I have not.
Okay. Well, we're going to treat every weapon as if it are loaded. So if this pistol were in your house on your nightstand because it's your home defense gun, or you're at a friend's house and they have a gun, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that gun is loaded. Might be, might not be, but I'm going to treat it as if it were loaded. If I grab the pistol, I'm going to keep my finger off the trigger until I'm ready to fire. So if I'm just looking at a handgun at someone's house or whatever, there's no reason to be going into the trigger guard. My finger's just going to stay off of the trigger while I'm looking at it, inspecting it, checking to see if it's loaded. The next thing is we're not going to aim the gun at anything we're not willing to destroy. So that means flagging someone, aiming at someone as a joke or something like that. If I'm, talking to you about the gun and I want to look at it from this side, I'm going to try not to aim it at you. Even if I know it's unloaded and I've looked at it, I'm still going to build a good habit of not aiming at anyone I'm not willing to, destroy. Yep. And then the fourth rule is I need to be aware of my target's foreground and background. So in this case, it's pretty simple. We have a bunch of little targets out here. We have this nice berm, so when I shoot this target, the bullet's going to go right through, hit the dirt, we're good. Where this could matter is, let's say you're out, in the woods somewhere and you're setting up targets. You wouldn't want to set up your targets and the neighbor's house be behind them. Probably not a good idea. So in this case, we're good to go. The way all of these firearms work, outside of bolt-action rifles and shotguns and revolvers, is you have a magazine well that is going to accept a box magazine full of bullets. So in this case, this holds 17 rounds. It's very nice. That's going to be loaded into the frame of the pistol. Right now, this gun is loaded. I have a magazine full of bullets in the mag well. You heard that click, so it's not coming out. But the pistol is currently not chambered. I still have to take a round from the magazine and put it into the breech or into the barrel. And the way we do this is by reciprocating the slide. And that is actually going to chamber a round into the pistol. You can see it right there. So if I want to unload the pistol, I'm going to take the magazine out first, pull the slide to the rear, bullet comes out, and then you can use this little catch right here that most firearms will have to lock the pistol open so you can see there's no bullet, there's no magazine, the gun is empty, and I can set it down. If I want to load the pistol, I take the magazine, insert it into the magazine well while aiming in a safe direction, and then I can drop the slide, and the pistol is now chambered. Loaded and chambered. You have any questions on that?
I do not. Can I try that?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
I'm old. My memory.
No, you're good. So you got the pistol here. Go ahead and pick it up safely. Look at it. You can check to see that there's no magazine in the magazine well. So good to go. Pull the slide back to verify that there's nothing in there. No bullets coming out. So now you know the weapon's clear. Now you can hand it to someone. Hey, check it out. Look at it. Whatever. Or then you put it in your safe or whatever. To load it, you're going to take the magazine while aiming in a safe direction. Insert into the magazine well. Yep, and you want to be nice and forceful with it so it doesn't fall out.
Is that good?
Yeah, you're good to go. And then while keeping your finger off the trigger, you're going to pull the slide to the rear all the way and then let go. And then you can pull it back slightly, just a little bit, and you'll see you're chambered. So this gun's now ready to rock. When you pull the trigger, it's going to fire. There's no safeties or nothing. In order for this pistol to function, it has to have recoil. It's a recoil-operated gun, so every time I press the trigger, the slide reciprocates, taking out the spent casing, loading a new bullet. That's how it works. But you'll notice, as the gun is moving, it wants to go up. So in order to shoot fast and accurate, we have to fight that. The way we do it is we grip the gun nice and high. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not teacup gripping. This isn't Hollywood, because that's just going to make the gun jump all around our hand. We're going to take our left hand, because we want to shoot with two hands. If I have to shoot with one hand, I will if I'm doing something with this hand or going up a ladder or something, but I want to be shooting with both hands. I'm going to take my left hand, and all this space right here, I want to try to fill. I want to have pressure on each side of the pistol so the pistol will only move backwards. It won't go off to the side. It will only recoil in one direction. And this is basically what it's going to look like. Everyone's got ears. So the gun's not moving that much because I'm gripping nice and tight, and I'm just able to let the gun return. But it requires good technique. So even though someone, like you're a bigger guy, even if someone's a bigger guy or they're jacked or they're big or whatever, if they don't have good technique, the gun's still going to move all over the place. But if you combine muscle, you're big and you're jacked, and good technique together, gun's not going to move very much. So, with all that said, are you ready to fire your first round? And
Yeah, although I gotta say, that spooked me. That was a little louder than I.
a little louder?
Yeah. It was louder than
Get
I
used to it.
anticipated.
Yeah. It's less loud when you're the one pulling the trigger, because you know when it's going to go off.
Huh.
So, with all that said, if you are ready, we're going to be shooting this target right here that I just shot. You're going to get nice and tight.
Let's see what we got.
There you go. Now when you're ready, fire again. Okay, reset, good grip, good side picture. You want to talk about rifles?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So, just like the pistol, in order for a rifle to be loaded and chambered, we have to have our box magazine. So this magazine holds 30 rounds of 223 or 5.56. So you'll see when I talked in the armory about, hey, pistol rounds, they're not great at stopping people. The bullet is big. There's not a lot of powder. It's not traveling very fast. So it doesn't necessarily do a lot of fun stuff when it enters the human body. A 5.56 round is smaller, but there's a lot more powder behind it. And when it impacts your body, it's not just creating a permanent cavity of the bullet, but it's also creating a disruption, a shock wave when it goes inside of you, and that's actually what does most of the damage. So I'll go ahead and fire a few rounds, just so you can kind of get a feel for this. And just like on the pistol, we have a red dot. The rifle's easier to shoot because I have more points of contact on the rifle. There'll be less recoil, but I want to make sure the magazine comes out.
Where's the button?
So, this finger's gonna hit that. Mag comes out, perfect. And then you pull the charging handle.
I've made decisions about what I want to buy, a Glock, an AR. What am I getting here?
Yeah, so what we've got right here, and this, we don't do this for everyone, so because I know people are going to want to come here and get the T.Rex experience and all that, but we've got this 11.5 BCM. We talked about earlier, that's the length of the barrel, so it's a little bit shorter than what we were shooting on the range, a little bit more compact. You can throw it in the car, put it in a duffel bag or something a little bit easier. This is something that we sell. I've been shooting BCM for years, but this is a pistol. It's not a pistol, but that's what it's classified as. So it has this little brace thingy, which you can wrap around your arm if you want, or not. And use, So it comes with a red dot. It's already been zeroed. I've personally shot this gun a couple hundred rounds through this, so this gun's good to go. It's got my stamp of approval, and it's got this aim point red dot on here. And this thing has like 20,000 hours of battery life, so you don't have to turn it off. You leave it on.
Oh, wow.
You'll want to switch batteries once a year, but you're fine. So you grab it, it's good to go, chamber around, and you're set. That's going to have 3 PMags, 30-round PMags, so you can load those up and you're good to go. And then there's also going to be this Glock. We're grabbing some screws for it that's going to have a red dot on there, which is quite a bit easier to use than lining up iron sights. That's what you were shooting with on the range. And this is just a Glock 47. It's basically the same as what you're shooting on the range. It'll also have 3 magazines and you'll be good to go. And we're including 1,000 rounds of green tip, which is what we have right now. You can use this as training ammo when you go to the range next time. You can use this.
This is for the AR.
This is for the AR.
Yep.
So 1,000 rounds of 5.56 ammo, and then I've got 2 boxes of hollow point ammunition from Winchester. So this is your defensive ammo. I would not recommend. I mean, you could shoot this in training. It's just a little bit more expensive.
Gotcha.
But you're going to load this ammo into your 3 magazines to keep with the pistol, and then when it's time to go and train, you'll get some cheaper ammo. That's not hollow pointed usually, and you'll shoot that stuff instead. Unless you just want to shoot fancy stuff.
I do not.
Okay, cool. So you'll be good to go leaving here. You'll have ammunition to load into the magazines, and you'll have 2 very capable firearms for home defense and anything else that can happen in the future that I think both of us hope does not happen, but could.
Lucas, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I thank you. The Fearless Army thanks you. My family thanks you. I needed this little introductory course. And now I got some more training to do. I'm not very satisfied with how I shot out there today. I think you outshot me, which probably isn't a surprise. You were a heavy favorite.
A little bit, yeah.
But I will out-eat you here in a second. So
sounds good.
my
I need to eat
zone.
more.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much for coming out.
Appreciate it. That's it, and that's all from here at T.Rex. It's been a great experience. Stay strapped. Be ready for 2024 and beyond. I'm Jason Whitlock. We'll see you next time.
freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all this moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom.